Hello artists! Today's video is an in-depth exploration of facial proportions, providing you with fundamental guidelines for creating realistic portraits. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just starting, understanding these principles will significantly enhance your portrait drawings. Before we start, it's important to remember that each face is unique, and that the guidelines I'll share are not rigid rules. Think of them as navigational tools to help you maintain proportion and realism in your drawings. I'll be using a portrait I drew of Cillian Murphy's character, Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders, as our example. This forward-facing position is an excellent starting point for grasping facial proportions, but I'd be happy to create further videos showing these same guidelines on faces in different positions and angles later. While I did enjoy drawing the textures of the fabric of his hat, it does make it a little difficult to fully appreciate the size of his head, so I'm going to draw a line here to show where the top of his head would be, and another here at his chin to mark the bottom. Now let's dive into the details. I'm going to begin by drawing a line up the center of his face to highlight its basic symmetry. This means that features on one side of the line will mirror those on the other in size, shape, and in distance from the line. While this might seem obvious, it's a good place to start. I'm also going to draw a line off to the side to represent the total height of the face, which will help us locate the midway point, which is just about here. Drawing a line out from this point will help us with eye placement, as it often aligns quite nicely with the pupils. This means that the eyes are located at the halfway mark of the face and are equal distances from the top of the head as they are from the bottom of the head. Now that we have the general location of the eyes sorted in regard to the vertical axis, we can move on to determining their size and placement on your horizontal line. As I mentioned earlier, features on either side of the central line of symmetry are often equal in size, so try to keep the eyes even in width as you draw them. It's also helpful to know that the inner corners of the eyes are usually spaced roughly one eye length apart. And feel free to purposefully break this rule if you're trying to draw a portrait with either wide or narrow set eyes, which can be a defining characteristic of a person's face. You should also know that the outer corners of the eyes are typically one eye length from the sides of the head. This means that a person's face will most likely be a total of 5 eye lengths across. Pretty cool, right? Eyes are also quite useful in determining the size of other facial features. For example, the edges of the bottom of the nose will typically line up well with the inner corners of the eyes. This is another one of those guidelines that you can hold more loosely, since some people have broader noses than others, but generally speaking, the width of a person's nose should be no shorter than 1 eye length across. Do also remember that noses tend to taper out towards the bottoms, so they're often thinner at the bridge between the eyes. It can be helpful to create a triangular shape like this while you're sketching it out. Now let's move on to the mouth, and one of my favorite tricks for using one feature to accurately estimate the proportions of another. We'll begin by drawing some lines starting at the corners and going straight up. As you can see, the edges line up quite nicely with the pupils. This means that while a nose is typically 1 eye width across, a mouth will be approximately 2 eye lengths across. Now these next lines I'm going to draw are going to be a little different from what I've been doing, because these lines are going to take into account the 3D aspects of a face. I'm going to do some quick sketches off to the side here to explain what I mean. Now here is a very rough outline of a face, with a rounded circle at the top and a basic chin. Drawn like this, it looks very two-dimensional, and if you're aiming at keeping your drawings 2D, then using straight lines like this will work well, because you really only need to account for a vertical and horizontal axis. But in order to create a realistic portrait, you have to give it depth. Remember that faces are rather cylindrical, round in shape, which means that the features towards the center are closer to the viewer than the features towards the sides. So To portray this, we're going to use curved lines. In this case, the lines will curve upwards because of the position of his head, but drawings from other angles may require downward curving lines instead. Keeping this in mind, we're going to move on to the ears. I'm going to start by drawing a curved line across the face between the tops of his ears. As you can see, this line goes right over the tops of the eyes, pretty much exactly where you see his eyelids. This line is slightly different from the original one we drew for pupil placement, as it goes both above and below the halfway mark, but this is again because of the curved line you're giving the head. I'm going to now draw a second curved line across the face, this time connecting the bottoms of the ears. Notice that this line follows the same curve as the first, and that it lines up well with the bottom of his nose. This trick is useful because not only will it help you ensure that your ears, eyes, and nose are balanced, but also because you can use it to make sure your chin is properly located. This is because the distance between the tops of your eyes and the bottom of your nose, aka the size of your ears, is typically the same as the distance between the bottom of your nose and the tip of your chin. Going one step further, we can divide this bottom section in half by drawing a third line following the same curve. As you can see, this line touches the bottom of his lower lip. This means that the distance between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the lower lip is the same as the distance between the bottom of the lip and the chin. Now, I know that this is a lot of information to process and that all these intersecting lines I've just drawn can be a bit confusing, so I'm going to do a quick summary to break it all down again and do my best to isolate these lines so that you can concentrate on these guidelines one section at a time. Remember that features will be mirrored across the line of symmetry in size, shape, and distance from the vertical axis, while the middle line goes straight through his pupils, which means that eyes are equal distances from the top and bottom of his head. Eyes are typically the same width as each other, and their inner corners are usually spaced roughly 1 eye length apart. Their outer corners are also approximately 1 eye length from the sides of the head, while the base of the nose is roughly 1 eye length in width. The corners of the mouth line up with the pupils, making the mouth 2 eye widths across. Noses are often broader at the bottom than they are between the eyes, so overall, the nose will likely have a triangular shape, though the angles and the height of the bridge are very subjective and can vary greatly from face to face. Faces are 3D objects with some features closer to the viewer than others, which will require the use of curved lines to show depth. The tops of the ears will line up with the tops of the eyes, while the bottoms of the ears will line up with the bottom of the nose. The length of the ear is equal to the distance between the bottom of the nose and the chin. Similarly, the bottom of the lower lip will be at an equal distance between the bottom of the nose and the chin. To recap, these guidelines are not rigid rules, but flexible tools to help enhance your drawings. Revisit them whenever you encounter challenges in achieving accurate proportions, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I hope this helps.